Imagine a history rewritten by a single planetary shift. What if instead of evolving on Earth, humanity had developed and thrived on Mars? This thought experiment isn't merely science fiction, it's an invitation to rethink biology, culture, society and technology through the lens of an entirely different planetary environment. Mars, with its frigid deserts, razor-thin atmosphere and lack of a magnetic field, presents one of the most hostile landscapes imaginable for human life. Yet in this alternate scenario, life finds a way. Our species, shaped by Mars from the very beginning, would not only have adapted physically to survive, but psychologically and socially to thrive. Civilization as we know it would be starkly different, perhaps more technologically advanced in some respects, more insular in others, and bound by an intrinsic understanding of planetary fragility. In this Martian world, our biology would reflect the planet's unique challenges. Perhaps we would have evolved tougher skin to withstand the cold, or larger lungs to process the thin atmosphere. Our very essence would be a testament to human resilience and adaptability. The first and most profound difference would be biological. On Mars, natural selection would have sculpted a very different human physiology. Mars receives less than half the solar energy Earth does, which would influence everything from skin pigmentation to circadian rhythms. Our Martian ancestors might have evolved with larger eyes to capture more light, or with denser bone structures to mitigate the effects of lower gravity, or perhaps the opposite, lighter, more agile frames adapted to a weaker gravitational pull. Reproduction, development, and even cellular repair would face evolutionary pressures we can barely comprehend. Instead of a Homo sapiens sapiens, we might be discussing Homo Martialis, a variant of humanity born not of Earth's lush biosphere but of Mars' austerity and scarcity. Societal development on Mars would be shaped by its unique environment and challenges. From the construction of habitats to the organization of communities, every aspect of life would need to adapt to the Martian landscape. This would lead to innovations and societal structures that are fundamentally different from those on Earth. Societal development would also follow a radically different trajectory. With limited access to natural resources, early Martian civilizations would have become technologically ingenious by necessity. Agriculture would not arise in fertile valleys, but in carefully engineered biodomes, with hydroponic and aeroponic systems developing millennia earlier than on Earth. The very concept of nature would be alien to Martians. Ecosystems would be artificial, enclosed, and deeply valued, not just as a source of sustenance, but as cultural and spiritual symbols. Conservation, not exploitation, might become the cornerstone of Martian philosophy, ingrained from the earliest stages of civilization. The geopolitical structure on Mars would likely be shaped by the necessity for cooperation over competition. With survival hinging on shared resources and collective ingenuity, Martian societies might prioritize unity and collaboration over territorial disputes. This cooperative spirit could lead to a more unified, perhaps even planetary governance system, unlike any seen on Earth. Geopolitically, Mars would impose an entirely different structure on human interaction. With habitable zones few and far between, cities might cluster around geothermal hotspots or beneath protective domes carved into ancient lava tubes. These isolated city-states would function more like technologically sophisticated monasteries than modern nation-states, highly self-reliant yet deeply cooperative with others out of sheer necessity. Warfare, if it existed at all, would be tightly constrained by the planet's lethal environment. A single ruptured dome or a malfunctioning life support system could mean annihilation. Diplomacy, redundancy, and resource sharing would dominate Martian geopolitics. Mars wouldn't just make war undesirable, it would make it irrational. The Martian environment would shape not just the physical infrastructure, but also the cultural mindset of its inhabitants. The harsh, unforgiving conditions would foster a sense of unity and interdependence, where survival hinges on collaboration and mutual support. In such a world, the values of cooperation and shared responsibility would be paramount. Culturally, the Martian mindset would reflect a profound awareness of mortality and interdependence. Religion and philosophy might center on themes of stewardship, survival, and unity. Instead of the Earth-centric mythologies of abundance and dominion, Martian societies might revere balance, restraint, and harmony with synthetic environments. Art would evolve with utilitarian constraints, focusing on minimalism and efficiency, but not without beauty. In fact, Martian aesthetics might elevate the interplay of form and function to a sacred principle, where every object, every structure tells a story of resilience. The scientific implications of a Martian civilization are vast. From advancements in bioengineering to breakthroughs in sustainable living, the challenges and solutions developed on Mars could redefine our understanding of life itself. Imagine the innovations that could emerge from a society built on the very edge of human capability. From a scientific standpoint, living on Mars would recalibrate our entire approach to knowledge. On Earth, science often began with observation of natural systems, forests, oceans, weather patterns, and gradually extended into the abstract. But on Mars, there would be no such luxury. Martian science would be born in the lab, in life support systems, and in tightly controlled environments. Chemistry and physics, particularly thermodynamics and radiation shielding, would be taught with immediate existential urgency. Martian students wouldn't learn these subjects for academic fulfillment. They would study them as essential survival tools. Astronomy, too, would play a central role in Martian culture. Earth would appear in the sky as a bright star, an unreachable blue beacon, reminding Martians of a world where water falls from the sky and plants grow unbidden. Perhaps entire branches of Martian philosophy would grow around this distant, lost Eden. Environmental engineering would reach levels of sophistication unimaginable on Earth. Terraforming, a hypothetical goal for us today, would be a practical, long-term planetary ambition for Martian civilization. Efforts to warm the planet, thicken the atmosphere, and introduce genetically engineered organisms would form the backbone of Martian development. Entire ecosystems would be built from the molecular level up. However, the ethical dimensions of such environmental manipulation would be deeply contested. Should Mars be changed to suit humanity, or should humanity change to suit Mars? This dilemma would define Martian identity. Are they masters of their environment, or symbiotic stewards of a world they do not own? As we delve into the psychological effects of living on Mars, we find ourselves exploring a unique landscape of the mind. The challenges of isolation, confinement, and the heavy reliance on technology would undoubtedly shape a society that's quite different from our own. Interestingly, the psychological effects of Martian life might produce a society that is more introspective, perhaps even more cautious or contemplative than Earth-based cultures. You see, isolation, confinement, and reliance on technology would create both challenges and opportunities for those living on the red planet. Interpersonal relationships might become more emotionally intense, as each human interaction carries disproportionate weight. Artificial intelligence and robotics would be tightly integrated into daily life, not as conveniences, but as critical extensions of human capability. And in such a society, the lines between human and machine could blur far earlier than on Earth. Ethics and governance, too, would be shaped by necessity. Martian legal systems would likely prioritize communal welfare over individual liberty, emphasizing responsibility, duty, and consensus. A person who endangers a habitat doesn't just risk their own life, they threaten the entire community. Ethics and governance, too, would be shaped by necessity. Martian legal systems would likely prioritize communal welfare over individual liberty, emphasizing responsibility, duty, and consensus. A person who endangers a habitat doesn't just risk their own life, they threaten the entire community. In such an environment, personal freedom would be recalibrated to include obligations to others in tangible, enforceable ways. Education, healthcare, and justice systems would be deeply interwoven with technology, transparency, and collective decision-making. A Martian democracy, if one existed, would be a deeply informed one, governed not by popularity but by scientific literacy and ecological mindfulness. Ultimately, to live on Mars instead of Earth would not simply be to swap one world for another. It would be to reshape the very foundations of what it means to be human. Our biology, our culture, our ethics, and even our sense of purpose would be rewritten by the red dust under our feet and the thin air in our lungs. And perhaps, in imagining life on Mars, we come to see Earth more clearly, not as a default or a given, but as a rare and precious gift. In contemplating the Martian path not taken, we're reminded of the fragility of life, the tenacity of intelligence, and the extraordinary adaptability of the human spirit.